everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today you join me not on a beach, not on a boat, but in my front room. I thought it was time. I haven't done one for a while. It's a rig making video, and it's fallen great actually. I'm making some rigs now for Norway for my friend Lesvik. We swap and change rigs in between us. I did send him some rigs out for Norway, but unfortunately they didn't make it to Poland. He's posted some rigs back to me for the European Championships where I'm going to be flounder fishing, and Lesvik is the master at it, so thank you for that. So what I'm going to do today is, you see me building the foam rattle rig, the rig I designed for halibut fishing out there. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to take you through the Ling rig, which I designed for out there. This rig is an absolute killer for Ling. It took me a while to perfect it and get the configuration right, but it is absolutely amazing, especially if you go to Skarskandet and fish on the landing. I've had countless double figure ones there, Ling over 20 pound in, and this actually is a killer. But you can also use it in the UK for Spurdog fishing. Fantastic for Spurdog fishing it is, especially if you go up to Scotland for the giant skate and that, and you want to target Spurdog up there. This rig is a killer up there. What I can also do as well is I'll show you, if you are going to Norway or fishing extreme deep loss up in Scotland, the rig I use for that, because obviously if you sometimes you cast in an up and over rig or a pulley rig, because of the depth you're going down it can tangle. So I'll show you the rig I use for places like Stratland in Norway, where it takes about 20 minutes for your bait to get to the bottom, but that helps for that if you're targeting the giant ling out there. So what I'm going to do is today then, I'll break you down the first rig, all the component parts for it, and then we'll talk through it, and then we'll build it together. After that then I'll talk you through the deep water Ling rig, and hopefully if you go to Norway or up to Scotland and all that, you can use this rig to great effect. Right, I'll quickly talk you through the rig as it is now. As you can see, I've had to put my reading glasses on because getting old is terrible. So the rig itself, I'll break it down quickly. The rig, if you're fishing in the 50 to 60 metre waters, I use an up and over rig. But only when the tide is running. If the tide's not running, I go to the rig which I'll show you after, which is a sort of a boom rig. So we'll talk through the up and over rig in a minute, but on the business end then, as you can see, this configuration I've got. I won't go into it heavily in a minute, but you can see, as you can see, it's got some Lumi tubing. The best thing is extra large moon glow, which I had Danny to make for me years ago, which is absolutely brilliant. And then it's got a muppet trapped in the middle there, and it's the direction you have the muppet in as well is quite crucial, which we'll go through. And then I've got a 7/0 hook, and then I've got a 6/0 circle hook. I have tried dongles out there, but the big issue with dongle is, believe it or not, I've had dongles completely bit off by the Ling. As you know, Ling got teeth, and that's why we'll talk about this in a minute. And I've just come back in with a circle hook where they've just bit the dongle off. Also as well, a lot of Ling down there, because you're fishing in such depths of water, they're not going back anyway, because as you know, circle hooks for preservation of the fish. The Ling, half the time when you get them most of the way up through the water, obviously the swim bladder comes out to their mouth, and half the time they just float up anyway, because a lot of time if you miss them mid-water, about 5 or 10 minutes later you see them popping back up anyway. So that's why I've gone for that configuration, 8/0, and then I think it's a 7/0 actually, circle hook. So that's what the rig looks like, and now we'll break it down now and go through the whole rig. Right, the rig itself, it's just a bog standard up and over rig, how you want to build it yourself. But what I do recommend is, when you're doing the return bait clip, I like to have the extra long tail. As you can see then, this comes down to 100 pound mono, and then I've got beads, rubber beads either side, and then I've got my pulley bead, and that comes then down to my off-ground cast. These ones are pretty good because they take a wide gauge hook, and as you can see then they just lock it off. That comes down then to my 200 pound power swivel, and then I've got a bit of line there, as you normally see, to click away it. That comes down then to 150 pound mono, like normal, and it comes down, and I've just got a stopper knot there, which we're going to build it onto. And that's it, it's just an industrial size up and over rig. And then what I'll quickly talk you through now, the other component parts which you require. Whatever moon glow or glow, whatever you want to use, you use. Tell you what is good, I find, I don't know why, pink tubing, you know, for some reason I found Ling like pink tubing. I found it on a boat, and then when I knew it on a boat, I went out there and tested it, and they liked the pink Lumi tubing. But what also that does, it protects the line against the teeth of the Ling. Because as you know, Ling have got rows and rows of sharp teeth, and the last thing you want is to have a fish of a lifetime on. It also acts as an attractor, but also a barrier for the teeth against the line. You need a Lumi Muppet. Use them in pink, but I find these Lumi ones better. And you want them to get them about 4 inches long. Brilliant. And we just spoke about the extra large Moon Glow, or whatever company you want to use. I've got an 8-door hook there, 8-door circle hook, and then I've got 2 Lumi beads. As you get into through the seam of this, everything is luminescent, because Ling feed on bioluminescence when they're down there. My great friend Phil Gale, we were testing it out there, and everything Lumi was picking up the Ling. The stuff, the rigs, rods and rigs which we didn't have Lumi on, weren't picking up the Ling so good, and especially with the Muppets, that was proper firing them up. So that's all the component parts you want to build the rig. What I'll do is now, I'll tilt the camera forward, and then you can actually see me putting the configuration of the rig onto the main line. Come to the part now building it. As you can see in front of me now, I've got the hook length or snood length. In the middle of that, I've just got a stopper knot. And the first configuration is going to go on is your Lumi bead, 8mm Lumi bead, which goes up to your stop knot. The next thing on then is your pink tubing, which is very important. Obviously it acts as a cover for your line against the teeth of the Ling, but it also adds a massive amount of traction, because down in the depth, when fish swim through, they leave a bioluminescent track behind them. If you watch it on Discovery or anything, when a fish down in the depth goes through the water, it actually leaves a light trail behind it, so that actually attracts the Ling to it as well. So it looks like the fish is moving through and it's leaving a trail behind it, and also then it acts as a cover. Next thing to go on then, as you can see in that configuration, you've got a bead, you've got your rubber tubing, you've got your bead. Next thing to go on after that then is your extra large Moon Glow, or whatever glow you want. I find this one is amazing with Danny, fair play to him. Years ago I talked to him about it, and then we had that then. After you've done that then, the next thing to go on is your Muppet. Inside your Muppet, what I've done, as you can see, I've inserted a bead. You pop it out. So all that does then, it keeps the skirt open when it's in the water. So next thing to go on is another bead. So it's that configuration then, as you can see. This is the important part, and I'll explain why. Your Muppet. A lot of people have seen it put their Muppet on, so it's like that. And when the tide hits it, your Muppet is flat. It just stretches it out like that, so don't do that. And also, when you cast in this bait through the air, if you add the Muppet like that, it'll all go like that through the air, less aerodynamic, and you don't get a desired effect as well. So in the water, what you were looking for, and this makes a massive difference, because I actually guided out there and I told these boys about this rig, and unfortunately we had to change them when we were out there. A lot of them had them up it the other way around, and they weren't getting half as many Ling as the other boys who had it like this. So what happens is, in the water, when you're casting, it's aerodynamic. Once it hits in the water and the tide is going that way, it opens up the skirt in the tide, and all these things will move like so, and added attraction. This rig, when I was fishing for Ling in Skarsgård on the landing, I had my biggest haddock. I think it was £9.12 it was. I'll put the photo up in the corner. And it was when I was fishing for Ling. So then you've got that configuration. So you've got your bead, your tubing, bead, Moon Glow, bead, then your Muppet, and then your extra large Moon Glow again. So simple to tie, but this is so effective. Simply put your circle hook on, and then the hook of your choice. I've got a big meat hook here, as you can see. Not of your choice. And like I spoke about, these rigs will be going out to Lessick. for when he goes on his trip to Norway. Moisten and pull. And that's it then. Nice and simple, but so effective for Ling out there. I don't go over the top of the bling because it stops you casting, but I finally got it down to this, and everything works perfect together because you've got the tubing acting as the bioluminescence, obviously showing the fish's trail. You've got the squid upside down, muppet, sorry, to give you a desired effect, and moon glow. These glow for about 35 minutes. They're amazing there. And then you add your mackerel or whatever fish bait you're going to put to that. But that's the rig now fully built. I'll turn the camera back round. We'll have a quick chat about it, and then I'll show you then my deep water rig for Ling. Well, that's the rig all put together, and as you can see then, like we spoke about it, how it's all made up, and like we spoke about the muppet, when you're casting out it goes through the air like that, but when it's in the tide you get that effect. Obviously try it if you go up to Scotland as well for your Spurdogs and everything. Really effective from that there as well. Right, so like we spoke about, I'll just put that to one side, but it's going to be the same configuration. I just wanted to show you the main body of when I'm fishing really deep water for Ling. I use booms, and as you can see here, I like metal booms, the reinforced ones, but you can have a little bit of movement in them, but I like the metal ones. I use a two boom rig, so my lead weight will be clipped on the bottom and come down to my first one. So it'll be sitting like that. I like it just off the bottom. I don't like it flat on the bottom because a lot of places where you're fishing for Ling can be rocky, but a lot of places in Norway it's quite muddy, and it is quite really muddy, so if your lead does sink in the mud a bit, your bait is not going to be engulfed in the mud. So I like to have about a foot space between them, and as you can see then your baits are going to be suspended. Ooh, let me show you. So that will be on the bottom. You'll have one boom coming off there, and then 2 foot above it you'll have a second boom, because Ling will actually come up in the air, and plus when you're down there, if something does rob your bait, it's nice to have 2 baits there because it takes you about half hour to wind it back in. And so all I simply do with that is I have a, like I said, 150 pound snud. I'll cut it short on there, and that's all I do is then I'll have that simply attached like that. If you go to places like Stratland, you're not casting far, so you don't need to cast far. Same up in Scotland, if you're fishing for the spurs and all that, you don't have to cast out far. So all I'll do is the boom, as you can see, will just sit that off. When it goes down, it'll go down to the bottom. It stops it tangling as well, because an up and over rig in deep water, it has got a tendency to tangle, and when it gets down to the bottom, obviously it will hold it like that in the water. But that's all I do is use exactly the same configuration for really extreme deep water, but that's all I do is I put it over to booms, because the last thing you want is to cast it out, take half hour to get to the bottom, and your rig's not fishing. You leave it for 2 hours, an hour, whatever you want to, because you're using big baits, wind it back in and it's just a big ball. So I find with the booms, especially when it's going down to extreme depths, the booms obviously hold the line away from the main body, and it stops it tangling going down. I'm going to keep on making rigs now for Lexvik. I'm going to make in some of the rackled rigs for halibut fishing. If you haven't seen that and you're going to Norway, look back on the channel and I'll show you the rig I designed for halibut fishing. It's called the foam pop-up rackled rig. Absolute killer out there. I got a breakdown in my YouTube video how to make it all. So that's an amazing rig if you want to go to Norway and try it for halibut fishing. But that's me done now. I hope you find that useful. The weather, believe it or not, is 12 o'clock in the afternoon and it looks like 6 o'clock in the evening. It's absolutely horrible out at the moment, so there'll be definitely no fishing for me this weekend. It's absolutely pouring down, which I'm quite gutted about, but never mind. I'm in here making rigs and I'm helping my friend out, Lexvik from Poland. But I hope that gives you the hints and tips as always. Also, if you want any rigs, me to make them and show you how I make them, just drop a name in a comment and I'll show you how I make that type of rig. But yeah, as always, if I don't see you on a beach, a boat, or in my front room, I'll see you on the channel. Enjoy your fishing, everyone.